Hi everyone, happy morning. Welcome to Gnan Cloud Garage. In this session, I'm going to talk about vRealize Automation 8.9 and session 4, and I will cover the most common use cases with real world examples. In other words, real time scenarios. Okay, and here is the agenda, and I will quickly recap our previous session. We are a 8.9 overview and along with our use cases, which is mainly related to day zero design, day one deploy, and day two operations and day n life cycle. So in this session, I will focus on few use cases, and the some of the additional use cases I will cover on the next session. But once we have a big picture of all VRA use cases, it's easy for us why we are learning each and every component in VRA and all the concepts. Okay, this holistic approach will be helpful for us to dive into the VRA. Now, the concept includes first, what are the VRA 8.9 use cases with real world examples, and use case 2, day one deploy provisioning and customization, and use case 3, day two operations, and use case 4, load balancing service for app tier and also the web tier virtual machines, and additional use cases. Okay, so VRA 8.9, we are already aware VRA is a one of the multi-cloud management platform. We can not only, if you want to automate any of our on-premises repeated activities, we can automate using VRA. That is one method. And the second method is, even if you want to automate the private cloud infrastructure, you want to give an access to your multiple tenants, that is also possible. And the third method is, even if your business is expanding to the multiple locations and you want to explore the some of the additional options also, even if you want to move from private cloud to public cloud, or if you want to use your on-premises to migrate it to the hybrid cloud environment. Like using private cloud, we have integrated services with public. So hybrid cloud services also available in VRA, not only hybrid, even if you want to expand any additional cloud services, if we are using hybrid cloud with any additional cloud services, it's considered as a multi-cloud environment, or we can also say cross cloud environments. So all these environments, we realize automation will be helpful to automate our infrastructure activities. Okay, and as per our previous session discussion, we know we realize automation when we install VRA, the mainly it comes with a four components: service broker, cloud assembly, code stream, and orchestration. So try to familiarize with this terminology. So later on, we'll have a separate session for each component. Service broker, the complete in detail concepts I will explain. But for simple terms, service broker means it's mainly for self-service cloud infrastructure as a service layer. Okay, and cloud assembly, the main component in the cloud assembly is infrastructure as a code. You can implement the cloud assembly designs using a AML infrastructure code, and we can also use Ansible, Terraform, any of the other third-party tools. Okay, and code stream, it's mainly focusing on the DevOps functionality like infrastructure pipelining, CI and CD, continuous integration and continuous development. And along with this, we have a orchestration, and orchestration and extensibility. Extensibility means it is a ABX. Okay, and orchestration, we call it as vRealize orchestrator. And we can even whatever the tools defaultly it's not available in cloud assembly integration, we can also integrate using third-party configuration management tool integration. And if we want to use VMware official configuration management tool, that tool is named called SaltStack Config. But as of the current vSphere 8.9 version, this tool is still it is available as a separately. So that's why I use the symbol plus, and it's a separate configuration management tool. You can use official VMware SaltStack config tool, or you can use any of the third-party configuration management tools like Chef, Puppet, and all. Okay, so this is a holistic picture. Now, what are the vRA 8.9 most common use cases with real world examples? And here, the real world examples, the first easy understanding is most of the end users, customers, they will access our vRA using a service broker page. Some companies, they will use service broker, and some companies on top of the service broker layer, they will also use some customized portals. Like they will use their company logo, even company logos and all, we can keep it in the service broker itself. But some organizations like a banking sector or government industries, what they prefer is they don't want to highlight their background private cloud tools. So that scenario, what they will do is they will also use some other customization tools using a service now software, or they may use any other softwares. They additionally in the front layer, they will keep another tool front side self-service portals. With that self-service portals, they will make their own customized icons and logos. Okay, that possibility, that one, what they will achieve is they will the front end user, they will not know our organization what the tools they are using in the backend. Okay, so it's up to the customer's choice. They can implement the service catalog from the service broker directly and provide the access to your end user. That is one method. And another method, you can also customize this portal, and you can put another additional layer of portal to the end user access. Okay, it's up to customer's choice. Okay, and from this service broker, the main concept is not only these 8 services, you can create n number of service requests. Okay, this n number of service requests, one of the best example in the public cloud like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. During the initial days of starting the public cloud, even the public cloud service also started with only the 2 digits of services, like max until below 90 service, below 99 services only. But later they started increasing to the close to 200 cloud services are available in the public cloud environment. Even if you see AWS also, we have close to 200 cloud services are available. The same scenario, even in our private and public cloud, using the vRealize automation also, we can implement our service catalog items. Initially, you can start with some extent, like you can start your services with 50 services. Later, you can slowly increase to 70, 80, 100, and so on. Okay, so the concepts is completely related to our organization infrastructure use cases and also the business needs. Whatever the customer business needs, along with that, you can add one additional service. Okay, so with interest of our time, I will cover few commonly used services. If anything, if I missed also, I will cover in the later sessions. Okay, so now let's back to the day 01. Day 01 we discussed in our previous session. Let's quickly recap. I given one example use cases. I took the example of 10 tools minimally to kickstart with our vRealize automation self-service portal. Okay, but with these 10 tools, there is no guarantee every organization will use a same tool. It's a vary from one organization to another organization, but the core concept is same. Okay, core concept same means, let's say one example is data center location. Every organization have multiple data center location. I give an example of 2 sites, single site A and second site B, and hybrid site A and site B. Suppose your organization have multiple branches. One branch is in Singapore and another branch is in India. If the customer want to provision a virtual machine, every end user can, while submitting a request, they can see 2 locations. Either they can provision a VM on, or they want to customize all their infrastructure on Singapore location or India location, or it will be on a other country, EMEA location, or North America or South America. It's completely depends on the customer organization structure. Okay, and minimally every organization usually they will have 2 location or more than 2 locations. Some organizations with the large scale industries, they will have a more than 40 plus locations. So we have to prepare all the locations. As a vRealize automation engineer, we need to prepare all the location information in our vRA drop-down menu. Okay, so even if you learn one option how to prepare the location details in the drop-down menu, it's the same procedure for multiple also. Okay, and one example will be more than enough for us to understand the concept. And Infoblox, even Infoblox also one of the IP address management tool. It's like our, if you are coming from a Windows background, we are familiar with one of the concept called DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It will help us to assign a automatic IP address to all our client systems. Same way, even the Infoblox also one of the automation tool. It will assign the IP address automatically for all our virtual machine provisions. Okay, and vRealize automation also we have to create these tools and all I covered in our previous session, so I'm just skipping that part, but this 10 tools is the one brief overview for us. Okay, and let me take one example here. Suppose if we take a general example, like if we started a one restaurant, normally during the initial days of restaurant we start with like a let's say I'm planning to start a restaurant only for a breakfast items. So that is our initial business plan. Once your business getting profits, what we think is we always look for a continuous improvement. So our improvement second level, second phase, our improvement plan will be like, okay, why don't we start a dinner items also? So within our restaurant, our menu catalog items, it's like a vRA catalog items. We will also include a, along with the breakfast items, we will also include the dinner items. That is our second stage of improvement. Suppose after some years or after 1 year, you will see some profits even in the both morning session and evening sessions, we are getting into the profits. So maybe in the following year, our business, our restaurant owner may think that why don't we start a lunch items? Okay, so like that they will enhance their business. So their catalog items, that means their service catalog menu, again the items will be increased. So now they have a three categories of items: morning breakfast item, lunch items, and also the dinner items. So three items are included. Even if you observe for another 1 or 2 years and your business and your restaurants more onto the profits, what they will do is they will also start a franchises branches in the any of the nearby locations or other countries. That is the usual procedure how we are expanding the businesses. Same scenario, even we realize automation also. During the initial start, we may start with a few tools. It's not only limited to these 10 tools, it's completely vary from one organization to another organization. That is my key point here. Suppose if I explain today about these 10 tools, later on you may get into the question why my organization is not using these tools. It's not like that. It may vary from organization structure to one organization. Same like the restaurant example. Let's say some restaurant may have very popularity for some of the items only, but all organization not equivalent to the same items. It's very right. The same scenario here also. Okay, and that is my actual intention to explaining these 10 tools. This is only limitation for 10 tool. I received couple of questions and emails from emails, so hope you got the idea. There is no limitation to selecting the initial endpoints. It's a completely a subject to the customer's choice. Okay, so now let's start with a another point now. So another common use case is day one deploy. We already prepared our day zero design. We already designed the initial design. Either you start with the 10 tools or more than 10 tools. It's up to you. Okay. But the basic functionality is we need minimally these 10 tools. And the day one is deploy. Deploy is nothing but a provisioning of our infrastructure, virtual machines, because nowadays most of the organizations already virtualized only. So this provisioning, and we also understand how we can customize. Customize means you can do whatever the customization you want. So the use case to what I'm trying to say is the common use case is virtual machine provisioning, and our service catalog item will be like a subscribe virtual machine package, add virtual machine, deprovision virtual machine. So within the use case too, one of the sub point is virtual machine deprovision. Let's say one user is provisioning a virtual machine and they also set a expiry date for next to 2 years or next to 3 years. Maybe this VM requirement is only for 1 or 2 years. So based on the customer application owner requirements, they will set the expiry period also. That virtual machine expiry period is nothing but a decommission or deprovisioning the virtual machines. So some companies they may set during the initial stage itself. Some organization they may plan the deprovisioning in the later stages. They may plan for after 5 years, or they may set to the no expiry. That means this VM is required permanently, like our organization Active Directory and our management compartment VMs. Always there will be no expiry date. It will be like a permanent. But for application perspective, some applications may set depends on our project requirement. Okay, so within that, what is the sub options, our use case, what is the main options are available? I will trying to explain here. So provision one or more VM. So in our service catalog, this is the one customization automation item we have to do, but manually we are doing one VM. That option we know. But what the special of vRealize automation is, at a time we can provision multiple virtual machines. Even if you want to deploy 100 virtual machines in vSphere, we have to use template to deploy 100 virtual machines. But template also, we have to right click the template 100 times we need to submit, even though it may take hours time. But when you are using vRealize automation, within few minutes, once you submit your virtual machine count and submit, it will start provisioning the multiple virtual machines. The count will be like a n number of virtual machines. N means you can keep based on the requirement. Okay, so that is the one use case. But within this virtual machine package, what are the options we can use? Like t-shirt sizing, small VM, large VM, or extra large VM. Okay, that sizing also we have to do. So service catalog in vRealize service broker or self-service portal. So customers may use some customized names also. I given one example as self-service portal, or you can use the same vRA official name service broker. Okay, and static web, so it's like a web server along with fi load balancer compartment. I took the example of fi is the physical load balancer appliance, but your organization using any other appliances like load balancer appliance, that appliance name you can include here. Okay, and every organization have a two types of infrastructure compartments, that includes intranet compartment for our internal access. For external access, they may use separate internet compartment, because web servers also we have a two types of websites: intranet website, internet website. So these two categories we have to configure during the creation itself. But this is the customer requirement. When we gather the customer requirement, the same way we have to do the customization in vRA backend. So how we can do and all, I will show you. Okay, and a single site, some customers they provision all the virtual machines in a single site, and those are all three-tier application. Three-tier application means one web server, one application server, one database server. And some customers may prefer for a dual site. Dual site means two sites, site A and site B, and they have a both sites, one a web app and DB. Why they configure on dual site is, they will make like a one site will be like a primary site, another will be like a disaster recovery site. Okay, and similarly, not only virtual machine provisioning, nowadays our application definition has changed. Every applications have been migrated from monolithic to tier based, and tier based to microservices, like container based applications. These container based applications also we can submit from a service broker request. That is also one latest modern use case for application virtualization. To deploy the Tanzu Kubernetes clusters, we can use vRealize automation. Okay, that is also one of the best use case. And this service catalog allows user to add one or more VMs to the existing organization after a package is subscribed. Okay, and end user can deprovision a VM when it is no longer needed. That is also customer's choice. When the VM is no longer needed, they can deprovision, or else the billing cycle will be continued even the VM is unused also. So always we have to set the expiry for virtual machines, expiry date. Okay, and this customization I'm showing in the first slide, and we have the same use case I will cover in the next two slides also. So now we'll discuss the 2 by 3 slide. And here also the same concept, there are some additional customization options. What is the additional customizations are? Once the VMs are provisioned, so that means VMs are already created, this VM should be applied with the post provisioning configuration. So organization they require some post provisioning. Normally this post provisioning and all, if you do not have a vRA, all this task we have to perform manually. That instead of performing this task manually, if you have a automation tool, this all task will be automated, like creating DNS records in respect to DNS server. We no need to do manually. For for this also we can prepare a one workflow in vRealize orchestrator and create a local user account. For example, system admin, master user. You can use master. Any name you want to keep in your local user account, you can keep it. And activate antivirus agent for every organization for security. For antivirus software is minimally required. So antivirus, you can use any of the antivirus tools like semantic antivirus, trend micro, and you can use them based on the customer request. So for multiple antivirus tools are available. Whatever your organization is using, the same antivirus agent must be installed on all the virtual machines. But this is also automation. And activate VMS agent. VMS means vulnerability management agent. So for the security scanning, we required a vulnerability agent software also needed. And install and configure Commvault backup agent. I mentioned the product name Commvault, but it's a subject to be customer's choice. Either you can use Commvault, Veeam, Cohesity, Rubrik, and any of the other tools like Zerto, any tools you can use. And add virtual machine production IPs to VMS assets. So whatever the IPs we configured, all these IPs should be assigned to the VMS, vulnerability access management server level. Okay. And systems operating system based on the customer's name, like every organization, they have certain naming convention. Based on the naming convention only, we need to add the VM name. And overall asset information has to be updated. Let's say we have 100 VMs until now. When we create additional 20 VMs, that 20 VMs should be updated in our asset inventory. Okay. And the configure virtual machine disk IOPS, input output per second. Normally organizations, they may use initial provisioning with a 1k 1000 ops, 1000 IOPS, and later on we can increase 5k IOPS, 10k IOPS, and so on. But in general, for most of the virtual machine, disk IOPS will be in a unlimited state. But in the organization, what they recommend is they want to limit their virtual machine IOPS, so to reduce their bandwidth. Like some organization, they may go with a minimally start with 1000 and 5000, later on they increasing 10k and all. Okay. But this option, if you want to see the IOPS, let me connect to our lab system. Let's say within our vCenter or ESXi host, for example. Actually vCenter, I'm just doing some testings. That way all the ESX hosts are downstate now. I'm exploring the vRA lab actually. So kindly allow me some time to complete set up the vRA lab. So until then, I'm just using one standalone host for now. Suppose this is one single ESXi host. If you want to see the disk IOPS, right click the virtual machine, go to the edit settings. When you go to the edit settings, if you expand the hard disk option, you can see hard disk size and what is the type of hard disk thick provision. And you can also change to thin to thick also. That configuration we have to include during the initial VM provision in a vRA level. And this disk have a vmdk file, and disk have a shares limit. See, the limit is IOPS. So default limit is unlimited. This point only I'm talking in the slide. So this disk IOPS, sometimes if you want to change it to the 1000 IOPS, that means 1k, you can just enter 1k and click on save. This is the manual method. The same method you can also automate using vRA. During the initial provision, the virtual machine hard disk, generally it may start with 1000k or 5000k, and later on if the VM is require a additional disk IOPS, they can also increase the disk IOPS using vRA. But it's not recommended to keep it as a unlimited in the real time scenarios. Okay. But in our test lab, even if you want set unlimited, no issues. Okay. So let's back to the slide. And that is the point I'm highlighting here. And with above packages, users can choose application of their choice to be installed within the virtual machine guest OS. Even guest OS also customer's choice. Some organization, based on their applications, they may use the applications with Windows flavors, Linux flavors, and Solaris flavors. And some scenarios, they may also use a virtual appliances. Even for our VRA lab purpose, I am also exploring the virtual appliances, because my lab systems are not supported for a until the physical level, so I'm planning to looking for a virtual appliances. One example is router. Instead of buying a router, what I'm thinking to do in our later labs is I'm planning to use a one software router. Using that software router we can do the labs also. Okay, and similarly any of the other tools also we can use the virtual appliances in our home labs, but in the real time scenario we have to use the actual physical appliances. Okay, and the guest OS also, it's a customer's choice. They may use Windows flavor, Linux flavor, Solaris flavor, or any of the other OS versions. Okay, and the middleware database installation of their choice, and on request basis only we'll provide the applications, additional middleware application, database, or any other business related applications. Even some organization they may ask for a video analytics applications. For video analytics application, recent days I'm hearing some of my customers asking the video analytics applications. During that scenario, what we have to do is our physical server, let's say if you are using a HP DL380 generation 10 model, these servers must come included with a GPU processor. One example is NVIDIA GPU processor, graphical processing unit. If you have a same GPU processor in your physical server, the same graphical processor can be shared to our virtual machine, because virtual machine means it is a software generated machine and looks like a physical machine. Whatever your hardware components, all components can be virtualized. So if you have physical GPU, even our virtual machine also have a capability to share GPU, graphical processing unit, to guest OS level, so that it allows you to run your video analytics applications. Okay, this is one example. Okay, now another one, along with post provisioning task, application installation and additional features needs to be enabled for the provisioned VMs. These are all the most commonly every organization used structure. Okay, this is the 2 by 3 slide. Now let me explain you the 3 by 3 option. So even some more additional options, the same virtual machine provisioning and guest OS clustered for database. Some organization, they may also ask for a clustering. Even clustering, I just given a 4 examples here. One option is Microsoft clustering. Maybe I hope everyone aware of Microsoft failover clustering. So using the failover clustering, we can configure in a multiple methods, shared disk plus heartbeat, and we can configure Microsoft clustering with the shared disk, or we can also configure without shared disk. That option also available using a witness VM like heartbeat. Okay, and Oracle clustering software and RSC, and this is also available shared disk with heartbeat, or without shared disk option within Oracle platform it's not available. And other clustering, not only Microsoft and Oracle, there will be some third party clustering features like Veritas Net Backup also providing a clustering features. So if you want to use other clustering also, this is the usually we configured with shared disk. And some organization they don't want any clustering feature, but still they need a shared disk to store the data. Like the shared disk is nothing but a for the file servers only. So for file server scenario, we can configure the shared disk. This is also one common requirement from the customers. And virtual IP also they may be requirement during the cluster configuration, it require a virtual IP requirement. So these all the commonly when VM provisioning, these many options are involved. But these all options usually we are performing manually. But when you are using vRA, all these options can be automated. But how we are going to automate only the our core concept. Okay. Now, let's talk about the another use case 3, day 2 operations. So within the day 2 operations, this is our familiar task. Normally, virtual machine day 2 services like power on, power off, shutdown, reboot, reset, and snapshot. Okay, and this is our usual tasks only. I actually I just recall one example. When I was in my starting career, I worked as a desktop support engineer. During that time, what my usual task is, my backend team used to push the patches for almost 5,000 desktops and also the 2,000 workstation, 2,000 laptops. Most of the time, laptop users they will reboot their itself, but for the desktops also they are rebooting remotely. But some of the desktops unable to restart. So my job during the desktop support scenario, I have to go to all the floors and need to restart the desktops manually. when the able to restart from remotely, it's an easy job, but some systems may not connect remotely, so it require a manual restart. Same way, even in the server, when I move to the server administration also, our most of the monthly task will be like a patching. We have to do Windows server patching and also the Linux server patching. But after the virtualization, the same concepts we are doing in a virtual machine layer. Even monthly or quarterly basis, we have to restart the ESXi host, restarting our virtual machines. Virtual machine guest OS is irrespective of any OS, Windows, Linux, Solaris. But the restart, power on, power off, shutdown, reboot, reset, these all our common usual day to operations. Okay, so these options also can be automated. And the use case scenario, whatever the use case detail we have, that is a description. Like sometime we may require force shutdown. If we are unable to shut down from the guest OS level, we'll use a force shutdown. And graceful guest OS shutdown, graceful guest OS restart. These all are, we can prepare a one request for each item. This all comes under the day to services. Okay. Now, another point is the above day two operation should update the stage changes SSP CMDB. Whatever the options we are doing, all should be have a request number. The request number is updated in a configuration management database as the front end portal. Pick the values. It is like a queue number. Normally in the organization we have a incident number, service request number, change number. Everything is comes with a one request item number. Same way, all these day two items also, if you are submitted one request for power on VM, that power on VM request is comes with a one number just for our tracking purposes. Okay, that is also important. And load balancing service for app tier. For application VMs, some of the customers they require a load balancing service. That load balancing service means balancing the load. Okay, so I took the example of one example load balancing service for app tier. I took the example of nsx-t, but nsx-t I just mentioned, but maybe in future we have to use the naming convention as nsx, because VMware recently changed the product name to nsx. Okay, and so we should be familiar to use the nsx word also. Maybe in future we will not use -t. Subscribe nsx-t based virtual load balancer and modify nsx load balancer and unsubscribe. These options also we can prepare a use case. Okay, and this use case also it involves like a vRA service tenants have at least two application VMs. If we want to configure load balancing service, the requirement is minimally we should have two virtual machines only. And nsx-t, as I mentioned, nsx-t product has been renamed to VMware NSX and the current version is 4.0.1. Okay, now another use case 5. Some organizations they may recommend instead of virtual nsx like network hypervisor nsx, they want to use a physical load balancers. So that time generally physical load balancer they may choose for a web servers. So load balancing service for web tier, you can use any tool. I took the example of F5, same like subscribe web tier F5 based virtual load balancer, and modify. Even if you want to modify the configuration like t-set sizing, you can modify and you also unscript it. These also three sample use cases. Okay, along with this, to subscribe to this service also we should have at least one web server. Okay, that is a recommendation. And another additional use cases, I will cover quickly few additional use cases, and the remaining use cases I will cover in the later sessions. So one of the other additional use cases are bandwidth services. Every organization can configure a bandwidth. So for the network layer, so subscribe your bandwidth in the allot is one of the product name. So using the allot, you can set the subscribe bandwidth, modify bandwidth, and also you can use the shared bandwidth also. And there is another important use case is auto scaling and on-demand scaling. There is a difference between auto scaling and on-demand scaling, and try to understand the what is importance of auto scaling is, even within auto scaling we have a scale up and scale out terminology. Scale up means it's like a we are just increasing the virtual machine CPUs on demand basis, CPU, memory, disk, and IC. And the scale out means we are increasing the virtual machine count. Like if we have 5 VMs in an application group, whenever there is a load in the application all 5 virtual machines, immediately it will automatically increase the virtual machine count from 5 to 6, 5 to 8, like that, and so on. Okay, and you can also unscribe facilities available. And on demand scaling means it's based on the demand only, we can increase the specific configurations. So on demand scale up for CPU, memory, CPU ratio, even CPU ratio means shares. This option also we can find in the VM edit settings. Suppose if I select the virtual machine, go to the edit settings, you can find the CPU ratio options. See CPU hot plug, and generally if you want to automate the CPU increase and all, this option should be enabled state. And you can set the CPU reservation limit shares. So limit is nothing but you can set the limit like whatever the limit you want to set, you can set. And the ratio is comes under the shares only. So you can configure like a ratios can be low, normal, high, and you can select the custom, you can set the ratios. Okay, this point only I explained in the slide. Okay, you can configure the CPU ratio, that means shares only. And we can add a additional disk, or you can remove the disk, or you can also expand the disk. Okay, these are all our day-to-day operations also. And on demand addition of shared disk to virtual machine and increasing the IOPS, this is also recommended on demand scaling task. Okay, and apart from this, we also have some on internal URLs or internet URLs has to be whitelisting through web proxy service, that case also can be performed through vRA automation. Okay, and there are some more additional use cases like shared services. This shared services means SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol. Normally in our organization we need to get the from the monitoring tool, we need to get the alert emails. But how we are getting alert emails are the backend, we have a SMTP relay services. That means we are using a some third party SMTP services. And SMS also, some organization they may recommend to get the all the alerts to mobile messages also. That mobile messages also is like a SMS only. And we also use some transactions they may perform using a secure file transfer protocol, and these all also we can assign for a virtual machine. That is also comes under our VRA service broker subscription portion. Once we subscribe, definitely there will be another item for a unsubscribe. Okay, and this is also one of the important use case. Every organization for all our workloads, production workloads anywhere in the globe, all require a backup services. So we have to maintain the backup, and we in case of any disaster happen, we have to restore it. So the all the use case details include file backup, image backup, database backup. Image backup means it's like a full backup, database means application level, file backup means normally for the file servers we recommend a file server backup, or we can also take a guest OS level C drive, D drive, or Linux based directory based backup. Okay, and subscribe the virtual machine ad hoc level also available. And in case of any issues on your virtual machine, or any of the data is missed, or any file corrupted, we have a facility to restore. Okay, and ad hoc scanning, normally whenever any application going live, so during the live scenarios we require to configure a ad hoc scanning. That is also recommended automation task. And another one, firewall for the tenant core and shared services. So we can use third party tools like nsx distributed firewall, or we can use third party physical appliances using a FortiGate checkpoint and all. We can use to create a firewall rule and delete the firewall rule, or you can update the firewall rule or modify the firewall rule. All these scenarios we need to configure a request from the service broker. But if you want prepare a request in the from the service broker means backend, we should be ready with these tools first. Okay, so that's it for today. So today I covered the vRA vRealize automation 8.9 overview, and along with this some real-time scenarios with the real-world examples. Okay, hope you understand, and some of your questions I cleared. Okay, and there is no limitation to using the use cases and catalog item. It's completely to the customer's choice. Okay, and some of the other use cases and lab portion I will cover in the next session. And sorry for the delay for this VRA session, because I'm also having some technical challenges to do the lab. Maybe I will finish it when I get the spare time. Okay, next lab I will may come up with the lab portion. Okay, thank you. And if you're watching this video first time, please do view, like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Gnan Cloud Garage. Okay, and if you're already subscribed, thanks for your support. Bye for now.